Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a new series. It's called Looking Back at the DCEU. So today I've made four parts. This is the first one. Today I'm going to go for the Zack Snyder era. So looking back at the DCEU, I know a lot of people don't like the DCEU because of what they made it into. Um, there was so much potential it had, but yeah, today I'm gonna go what went wrong with it, and yeah, so here's the first part where I'm gonna talk about the Zack Snyder era. Where today I'm strictly gonna talk about the movies that Zack Snyder was involved in. Um, then I'll do part two and three and four. I will do part five, but I might wait till Aquaman comes out in December and I'll do it. So yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, now you're probably asking what is the DCU? Well, the DCEU stands for DC Extended Universe. It's an American media franchise, a shared universe centered on a series of superhero films and television series appeared produced by DC Studios and distributed by Warner Bros. Pictures. It is based on characters that appear in American comic books published by DC Comics. The DCU also includes comic book shorts, novels, and video games, like the original DC universe in comic books. The DC was established by crossing over common plot elements, settings, cast, and characters. Warner Bros. Had plans to bring various DC comic superheroes together in films since 2002, when Wolfgang Peterson was set to direct a crossover of the Batman Superman film franchises. After the planned Justice League film was put on hold in 2008, and initial plans were scrapped due to the critical and commercial disappointment of the 2011 Green Lantern, Warner Bros. Established its shared universe in 2013. The DCU began with the film Man of Steel, a reboot of Superman film series, followed by Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, which serves as a rebuild of the Batman film series. These films were followed by more than a dozen films and was extended to include television series for the streaming service HBO Max in 2020, beginning with Peacemaker, born a retraction of DC Studios, and appointment James Gunn Peace in 20. The franchise will be largely rebooted with the release of The Flash on June 16, 2030, leading to the DC Universe films and television planned by Gunn and Safran, though the original DCU will conclude with the release of Aquaman Lost Kingdom, December 2023. The DCEU is currently the ninth highest grossing film franchise of all time, having grossed over 6.3 billion global box office. Its highest grossing from Aquaman at 1.15 billion worldwide, and became the highest grossing DC Comics film to date. Reception to franchise has generally been mixed among critics and fans. So today we're gonna about what went wrong with it. So let's get into it. So due to the success of the MCU, which I think they were on like they had five movies up until the Avengers, which made 1.5 billion worldwide. Warner Brothers decided we were like, hey, when are DC going to do cinematic universe? And they tried in 2000 and around 2007, around 2007, they did Justice Immortal, and this was going to be the start of their universe. But this is the only photo I have of it with them in the costumes. Um, there's no footage of it. This was going I don't know. Yeah, this was going to be directed by George Miller, and he had Armie Hammer, DJ Cutrone, Alan Brody, Megan Gale, and it had Common, and yeah. So this was going to start filming, but the reason why it didn't happen was because of the Writers Guild strike that happened in 2008, and also Christopher Nolan, who was in the Dark Knight movies at the time, he didn't want any other iteration of Batman outside his one, so thus this was cancelled. And 2011, we had Green Lantern, directed by Martin Campbell, and starring Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan. This received negative reviews due to the story, the CGI effects, and yeah. So this was their first plan for a DC universe, but then due to this movie not bombing and making around 200 million on a $200 million budget, they canceled any plans for a sequel. So yeah, they decided to start the reboot Superman, have that start the DC Extended Universe. So Man of Steel was a superhero film based on DC Comics character Superman, directed by Zack Snyder. The story was developed by David S. Goyer and producer Christopher Nolan. The film stars a rebuild Superman film series depicting character's origin story as the first installment in the DC Extended Universe. In the film, Clark Kent discovers that he is a superpowered alien that he is a superpowered alien from the planet Krypton. He assumes the role of mankind's protector as Superman, making the choice to face General Gordon and prevent him from destroying humanity. Development began in 2008, where Warner Bros. Took pictures from comic book writers, screenwriters, and directors, opting to reboot the franchise. In 2009, a court ruling was on Jerry Siegel's family recapturing the rights to Superman's origins and sued copyright. Decisions say that Warner Bros. Did not owe the family additional royalties from previous films. But if they did not begin production of a Superman film by 2011, then the Schuster and Siegel estates would be able to sue for lost revenue on an unproduced film. Nolan pitched Goya's idea after story discussion on The Dark Knight Rises. Snyder was hired as a film director in 2010. Principal photography began in 2011 in West Chicago, Illinois, before moving to Vancouver and Plano, Illinois. And yeah, so directed by Zack Snyder. Following the success of The Dark Knight trilogy, they wanted Christopher Nolan to direct this movie. He said no. They went to Ben Affleck. He also said no. And yeah, due to the Dark Knight trilogy, they said this tone could be perfect for Superman, and that was a mistake because Superman is actually a light-hearted character, and the darkness works with Batman. It doesn't work with Superman. So let's go for the cast. So we had Henry Cavill as Superman, Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, Michael Shannon as General Zod, Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, Diane Lane as Martha Kent, Ayat Zura as Laura, Christopher Maloney as Nathan Hardy, and Russell Crowe as Jor-El. And this movie, is good. I know a lot of people don't like it. So yeah, this movie's okay. I think it's good for what it is. Like, I know people don't like it as a Superman movie, but I think it's good for what it is. So yeah, this Man of Steel is good. I love it. Has good action. The score is good by Hans Zimmer. I love the effects in it. And yeah, I think it's good. I think the problems I have with it is that there's no chemistry between Henry Cavill and Amy Adams. I love Zod, and everything about Zod was good. Everything about Fire was as good as well. And yeah, so no, still, and yeah, so when it was released June 14, 2013, it had a 56% on Rotten Tomatoes. And yeah, so it only made $668 million on a $200 million to $225 million budget. Critics felt the film was visually appealing. Accuracy was not enough to overcome its descent into generic blockbuster territory, and it right over Cavill's performance as Superman. It grossed on $668 million, becoming the ninth highest grossing film of 2013. As direct sequel under various stages of development since 2014 was cancelled in 2022 for the restructuring of DC Films as DC Studios. So yeah, this was though Man of Steel wasn't supposed to start a universe. It made enough for Warner Brothers to maybe start a cinematic universe, and they did. And they released this slate, which you can see had Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice Part 1, The Flash, Aquaman, entire DC movie, Shazam, Justice Part 2, and entire DC movie, and Cyborg, and Green Lantern Corps. That movie became Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. This movie was a follow-up to Man of Steel, and it's the second film in the DC Extended Universe. And yeah, so this was announced during the Comic-Con, and yeah, so BVS was the first live-action movie to have Batman and Superman in a movie, and this was also a reboot of the Batman franchise. This was announced during Comic-Con, and I will show you that video. So I'll show you that video now.
The one man beat you.
Whoa! What? What? What?
There are no words, you guys. Thank you so much for sitting through the Warner Brothers panel. This was such an amazing experience. I will see you guys later. Thanks to Warner Brothers. Thanks to Zack Snyder for the first part of the panel. I'm Chris Hartman, Cat Nerdist. I will see you guys later. Bye.
So yeah, it was announced at Comic-Con, and So let's get so basically in the film, criminal mastermind Lex Luthor manipulates Batman into a primitive battle with Superman, who Luthor is obsessed with destroying. And yeah, so this starred um so the film was announced at the 2013 San Diego Comic-Con after the release of Man of Steel. Snyder stated that the film would take inspiration from the Batman comic book series, The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, but clarified that it would follow an original premise. The incarnation of Batman in the film is different from the character's previous portrayal by Christian Bale in the Dark Knight trilogy, serving as semi-cube of the character. The film is also inspired by narrative elements from the death of Superman. Pre-production began at East Los Angeles College in October 2013, and principal photographer died in May 2014 in Detroit. Additional filming also took place in Illinois and New Mexico, cocooned that December. So this starred Ben Affleck as Batman, Henry Cavill as Superman, Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, Jeremy Irons as Alfred, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Holly Hunter as Senator Finch, and this had cameos of Ray Fisher as Cyborg, Ezra Miller as The Flash, and Jason Momoa as Aquaman. And this movie had 29% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made $873 million on $253 million budget, which is not bad, but a movie starring Batman vs Superman, this should have made $1 billion easily. And it didn't help the fact that this came out around the same year, but see if Civil War came out, and that made well over $1 billion. And when you have Iron Man and Captain America making more money than Batman vs Superman, yeah, that was the problem. So yeah, so Batman vs Superman, following a strong debut that set new box office records, the film experienced a historical drop in the second weekend and never recovered. Despite grossing $873.6 million, making it the seventh highest grossing film in 2016, it performed below expectations and to generate unfavorable reviews from critics. An extended cut dubbed Ultimate Edition features 31 minutes of additional footage and was released on home media 4 months later in 2016. Now, the Ultimate Edition was better received. Our critics said it would have been better with the additional footage, and I actually agree. So that is Batman vs Superman, which I actually like this movie. It's not as good as Man of Steel, but I like it for what it was. There's problems with it. I don't think they should have introduced the Justice League via an email, and Doomsday shouldn't have been in this movie. I don't like how it's a mixture of Dark Knight Returns and the Death of Superman. Death of Superman shouldn't have been in this movie. And yeah, that's pretty much my problem with the BVS. So yeah, that same year we got announcement that they were going to do a Suicide Squad movie. Now, Suicide Squad was the third film in the DC Extended Universe. And in the film, a secret government agency led by Amanda Waller recruits a prison supervillains to execute dangerous Black Ops missions and save the world from a popular threat in exchange for reduced sentences. This was directed by David Ayer, and this starred Will Smith. Jared Leto. Will Smith as Deadshot, Jared Leto as the Joker, Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, Jay Hernandez as El Diablo, Adewale Adeoye Abaji as Killer Croc, Ike Barinholtz, Scott Eastwood, Karen Fukuyama as Katana, and Cara Delevingne as Enchantress. Now, this movie was so by February 2009, the Suicide Squad film was in development at Warner Brothers. Ayer signed on to write and direct in September 2014, and by October, the casting process had begun. Press photography began in Toronto, Ontario on April 13, 2015, with additional filming in Chicago ended in August that year. And I remember when the trailer came out, I had the Bohemian Rhapsody, but due to the backlash Batman vs Superman, Warner Bros. Had cold feet, so they basically they took the cut to a trailer house and they edited the whole movie, and they left David Ayer. Lots of stuff was left on the cutting room floor, and yeah, so yeah, it had a 26% Rotten Tomatoes, and it made $746 million on $175 million budget, which is actually good. Following a strong debut that set new box office records, the film grossed over $746 million worldwide, making it the 10th highest gross from 2016. The film received negative reviews from critics with criticism aimed at its script and editing, while the performances, makeup effects, humor, action sequences, and soundtrack were praised. it was followed by Small Birds of Prey starring Robbie and a standalone sequel, Suicide from 2021, with Robbie, Kinnaman, Davis, and Courtney returning. I will get to them in part 2. And yeah, the Suicide Squad. People are still asking for the air cut, which I don't think the air cut would change. If we get it, I think maybe on Blu-ray, I would one happy buy it. But yeah, so next after that we had Wonder Woman. Now Wonder Woman is the 4th installment in the DC Extended Universe, and it's and this was the 4th installment in the DC EU, and this was directed by Patty Jenkins, and basically it is the second theatrical film featuring Wonder Woman following debut Batman vs. Dawn Justice. In Wonder Woman, the Amazon Prince Diana says how to start World War One, believing the conflict was started by the long-time enemy of Amazon's Eris. After American pilot and spy Steve Trevor crash lands on the island, Tim's going to inform her about it. So, this starred Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Chris Pine as Steve Trevor, Connie Nielsen as Hippolyta, Robin Wright as Entropy, Danny Helston, Eric Ludendorff, Elena Anaya as Dr. Poison, and David Thewlis as Eris. And this movie, development of a live-action Wonder Woman film began in 1996 with Ivan Reitman to produce and possibly direct. The production floundered in development for many years. John Cohen, Todd Alcott, and Joss Whedon, among others, were also attached to the project at various points. Warner Brothers announced the film in 2010, and Jenkins signed on to direct in 2015. Inspiration for Wonder Woman was drawn from Wonder Woman creator William Moulton Marston's 1940 stories and George Perez's 1980 stories about Wonder Woman, as well as the New 52 incarnation character. This photography began on November 21st, 2015, with filming taking place in the United Kingdom, France, and Italy before filming on May 6, 2016. The 123rd anniversary of Marston's birth, additional filming took place in 2016. It had a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made around $822 million, which I think probably could have made $1 billion, but due to lots of people don't like it, might still BVS and Suicide Squad. I think it ruined chances of it making $1 billion. The film received positive reviews from lots of reviews, being known for its cultural significance, with praise for its direction, performances, visual story, action sequences, and musical score. The song criticism was directed towards climax. It made $822 million, making it the 10th highest grossing film in 2017, and was the highest grossing film by a solo female director until it was overtaken by Hyman. And yeah, so we had the sequel 184. There was going to be a third film, but it was cancelled. So yeah, so that's Wonder Woman. I love this movie. This is my second favorite DC movie after Zack Snyder's Justice. This was my favorite DC movie. I still think it's probably the best solo movie we had, because I just think I think Shazam's probably a bit better, but this one's good. So yeah, so finally they had a win. Warner Brothers had a win. This basically told Warner Brothers that they didn't have to be dark and bleak. I thought the tone with Wonder Woman was fine, and I thought they could have kept it up, but no. Justice League came out in 2017. Now this movie is the 5th installment in DC Extended Universe, and this was directed by Zack Snyder. And yeah, in the film, following the events of Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, Batman and Wonder Woman recruit the Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg after the death of Superman to save the world from the catastrophic threat of Steppenwolf and his army of parademons. Now, this movie had a troubled production. Let me just get into it. Warner Brothers began to develop a live action film in 2007 with George Miller set to, but the project was cancelled due to production delays and budgetary concerns. Principal photography took place from April to October 2016. Zack Snyder was directed the movie, but he had to step down following the death of his daughter. Whedon was hired to oversee the remainder. Joss Whedon was who did the Avengers. What person to do it? He did the success of the Avengers. He was brought in to oversee the remainder of post-production, including writing and directing additional scenes, as well as reshooting a large portion of the film, which changed many aspects of it. Snyder ultimately retained sole credit as director, with an estimated production budget of $300 million, just like it was one of the most expensive films ever made. And yeah, this starred Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Ray Fisher, Ezra Miller, and Jason Momoa. And this also starred Amber Heard as Mira, J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, Kieran Hines as Steppenwolf, and yeah, so yeah, Justice League came out in November 2017. It had 39 million. It only had 39 million Rotten Tomatoes, and it made 657 million on a $300 million budget, making it a box office bomb. The film grossed over 657 million worldwide against an assumed break-even point of 750, become box office bomb, releasing Warner Brothers Pictures an estimated 60 million. It received generally mixed reviews from critics, with criticism aimed towards the plot, pacing, generic villain, cinematography, and computer-generated imagery, while its human light tone were met with polarized responses. Although the action sequences and performances, particularly Godot and Miller, were praised, Whedon's major involvement during the post-production also received harsh criticism, especially from the cast, particularly Godot and Fisher. And yeah, we'll see. This led to the Snyder Cut, which I will get to that in the next one. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the Zack Snyder era. Now, this is when DC was on thin ice, because it was after they failed to replicate the success of the MCU, and after Infinity War made over $1 billion in Black Panther, Warner Brothers was scratching their heads wondering what they were going to do with this universe. They were like, do we continue it, or do we just reboot the whole thing? So they decided to continue it but do a different approach, and that became the movie Aquaman. So that will be in part 2. So this is part 1. So guys, thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. Now tomorrow I will be doing part 2. So yeah, so guys, thanks for watching my video. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.